The show, Ebro in the Morning. That is Laura Styles. That is Rosenberg.
Goddamn right it is.
We have a special guest that I'm going to attempt to run through his resume in short form to give you kind of the lay of the land on why you just saw his production on Saturday Night Live and what he's working on.
Movie
is super important for music in general. You like that, Mark Ronson?
I love that.
In the building. Give it up for Mark Ronson. It's always weird that when I do that, when I say give it up for so-and-so on the program, that the people that are with that so-and-so don't really clap.
They never clap. They see him all the time.
They're not impressed by
care.
Are you doing something mean to these people, Mark Ronson?
I'm not. They just see too much of me.
That's sick of you.
They don't want to clap.
So, Mark Ronson, where are you a native from? Where are you from?
I was born in England, and then I moved to New York when I was 8, so I grew up in New York City.
And I was introduced and met Mark Ronson when he was DJing with Just Blaze. It was a weekly club. I forget the name of it.
Table 50.
Is that what it was, Table 50?
Yeah, but I met you the very first time was when you were working a station. Was it the Pacific Northwest somewhere?
Oh, you met me in Portland?
And I was doing Ooh-Wee that time with Ghostface, and I was doing a promo thing, and I came to your radio station to DJ.
Wow.
I didn't even remember that. That was, you know what was happening in Portland at that time.
A lot of green.
Ooh-wee.
A lot of that. Ooh-wee. It was literally happening. That's right.
Ooh-wee. So, then fast forward, Amy Winehouse.
Right.
Which you were very involved in.
Yeah.
Explain how your relationship with Amy Winehouse from the production side and the song making side. What was that?
Well, Amy was in New York because she'd been working with Salam Remy and Commissioner Gordon, who done a lot of stuff on the Fugees. And so I met her at that time, and we just had a bond instantly, talking about music and Motown and 60s, girl groups. And we just started writing together.
She's British, you're British at Jay's?
We're both British Jews in New York, lonely. And we wrote Back to Black the first day that we got together. And then she stayed for another 5 or 6 days. And in that time she wrote Rehab and all the songs that went on to become the meat of that album. And we became really close friends.
Were you the one that put Ghostface on that remix that she had on her album? What was that?
Yeah.
You Know I'm No Good remix.
Yeah. Well, Ghostface is one of my favorite rappers ever. And when we were making Back to Black, we were trying to make a contemporary jazz record, but like one that I wanted to, the RZA, if he heard any track on there, he'd be like, man, I want to sample that. Like that was our MO while we were making the record. So when we finished You Know No Good, and I asked Amy, I was like, what do you think about getting Ghost to do a verse? And she loved it. And she was like, she was listening back to the remix. She goes, did he just say that I'm going to give him the best brains he's ever had in the verse? And I was like, I don't know. He's speaking specifically about you, it's his verse on the song. She's like, I love it. So that was pretty cool. And Ghost then went on to do his own version on the More Fish record. So that whole thing all around.
And that, a lot of people don't know, that record with Ghost being on it prompted Funk Flex to play it on Hot 97, which then things really went fast, and Rehab became a single, and we played that, and we were early on that, and things were like out of this world at that point.
Yeah. Well, I spent a lot of time opening for Flex, Big Cap, all a lot of the DJs in New York clubs like Planet Rock and stuff, and Flex's musical taste is awesome, and I've seen him rock doubles of The Far Side passing me by at Mars in like '94. Like Flex's taste is impeccable. So whenever someone from the station plays any of my music, it's a great feeling because I grew up listening to this station, so.
Hey, I always wondered with the record, Me and Mr. Jones, did Nas ever know that the record existed, or was there any plans of you guys to like throw Nas on a remix or
throw Nas under the bus?
Yeah.
No, you know what? That song was produced by Salam Remy, but I think she made no secret about how much of a fan of Nas she was, and she loved hip hop so much. I think she only really listened to music from the '60s. And then Mos Def, Nas, and Wu-Tang, and kind of that was her thing.
Wow, Mark Ronson's here having Amy Winehouse talk. I'm trying to give the short kind of synopsis of why Mark Ronson is important in hip hop, DJing, producing, all of those things. Because right now you have a new single with Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
Uptown Funk.
Oh, you also. Sorry, I'm not going to derail you.
No, go ahead.
But you skipped over Wale too.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, Wale. I heard some of his demos. He was already obviously blowing up in DC. I think he had Nike boots. We started working together. I had a label at the time where we also had signed Saigon, who was on my first record, and Rhymefest, who co-wrote Jesus Walks, and did a lot of stuff in Chicago. And Wale, I just love Wale because he was just rhyming over such unconventional tracks, and he had such like kind of interesting concepts for stuff, and we really hit it off. So we made his first record. It was kind of, people loved it, but didn't quite sell as much. And then, when he got with Rick Ross, I was extremely happy because he got like the spotlight he deserved.
Do you have any regrets about the first Wale album and how it went? Because it is something that people it's a mixed bag. People's feelings.
I love Wale's first album.
I know.
I love that first album.
Attention Deficit, right?
Yep.
It just, some people, it didn't sell what people, I guess, what they initially hoped it would. Or Chillin', the Lady Gaga single, didn't make the impact that people hoped it would.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I haven't listened to it in a while, but the songs that we did together on there, like Mirrors with Brumby and
Mirrors amazing.
90210,
love
some of those
90210.
records. I'm really proud of them. And when you're making a first record, there's always like there's going to be one misfire, something that the label said you're supposed to do to get a single, unless you're making literally Illmatic. So I don't know. I think that it's a pretty great record.
Wow, interesting stories. So
I'm like the Forrest Gump. You do understand that?
You're the Forrest Gump of hip hop.
I don't know if hip hop, but
Did you ever play ping pong?
I have played ping pong. I once interned for the Korean national table tennis team. No, I'm just kidding.
Now this is interesting because you're the music aspect of it, right? And the way you look at music. Your stepfather was in Foreigner.
Yep.
Cold as ice.
Yeah.
What, he played an instrument?
He played keyboards and guitar, and he wrote most of the songs. And when MOP sampled "Cold as Ice" for their record, like I took him down to the video shoot to like meet them.
Wow.
And I remember that.
Amazing.
I remember that maybe I think he took 100% of the publishing. So I was like, I don't know if this is gonna go so well when we show up there. And we got to the video shoot and we just hung out, and he got on really well with Billy and Fame, and they just hung out all day.
And they didn't care about the 100%.
I think they were just grateful that he wrote a song that was made us into a song that became like a hit for them. So.
And if it helps, let's keep it real. "Cold as Ice" was the B-side to "Annie Up," which had already just gotten them the biggest check of their career. So it wasn't like they weren't sitting there stressing "Cold as Ice." They were hot on "Annie Up."
Yeah.
And then "Cold as Ice" became its own single, but it was the B-side. Sorry, nerdy aside.
No, listen, we need all of this. We're trying to build the resume for the people listening and watching for Mark Ronson and why they need to go and do their research on this dude, because he's got an album coming out.
And he's had previous albums, compilations out with amazing combinations. Name some of the artists you've had in your compilation, your last compilation, or two ago, whatever it was.
I've had, on my first record, what I have Freeway, Sean Paul, Ghostface, Nate Dogg, Saigon, a lot of people. Second record was more like singing, so that was like Lily Allen, Santi Gold, Daniel Merriweather, Amy Winehouse. And then this record that I've been working on now, we have, Uptown Funk with Bruno. We have The Feels Right with Mystical, the second song we did on SNL. Have Rocky on there, as far as hip-hop goes. And then my voice is really sleepy.
It's super sleepy, boy. I mean, you sound like you're dreaming right now. This is all part of a dream.
This is my real voice. This is me excited. Anyway,
by the way, I've heard you sound more British than you sound right now.
I think so. It's weird. It depends when I'm in England, I start to sound very English again. When I'm here, I start to sound like...
It's kind of like when I'm in California, I sound more California.
Exactly. I just sort of like it as an affectionate way to make fun of Mark Ronson. Me and Saif have talked about it on the podcast. Like, how British was he talking the last time you saw him? Because sometimes I'll sound like, "What's up, Rosenberg? How are you, mate?" And I'm like, "What?" And he's like...
You sounded Australian right there.
Shut up. Whatever.
Yo, get your accents right, B.
I just said mate, but they say mate everywhere.
Yeah, it's true.
See? People actually mate is only Australia. They say mate in the UK. Facts?
Yeah, that I will confirm that what you just said.
Anyone who says anything else is it's pure rubbish. You know nothing.
I'm actually watching Mark Ronson right now during this conversation, and I'm wondering if he's actually in the conversation right now or thinking about something else.
I'm in the conversation, fully here.
You're present.
I'm as present as I ever can. There's always 20% that's going off and writing.
Got it.
Baseline.
So, your sister,
yes,
DJ in her own right.
Yeah.
Was it clothing line?
Yeah, C. Ronson.
Yeah. Well, there's Samantha Ronson,
okay.
who's my sister who DJs, and then there's Charlotte Ronson as the clothing line.
Mm.
Never knew those were different people. That's how
What?
I just
You
knew.
are a loser.
Didn't know.
Girl.
That's cool.
I don't wear
You know
girls'
what?
clothes, man.
Charlotte Ronson is the designer.
You should
and
know
then
this.
Samantha is the DJ.
It's
There it is.
so much actually easier to remember people's family if you can combine them into one person.
See?
100%.
That's a good tip. Yeah, actually, on Jay-Z on the Blueprint, there was a line in that song
From C. Ronson?
Yeah, she's responding top with C. Ronson about my sister's clothing company. So my friend calls me up the day the blueprint comes out. He's like, dude, you got a shout out on the blueprint. I'm like, no way. So he drives up. It's like, I think it's a tape in the car.
It's not a tape. That was too. It was,
it was still a tape. It was still a cassette.
Wow.
And he's like, you got to listen. And he's like, plays me this thing. And I'm like, you bonehead. That's my sister. Like, for 3 hours, I thought I had a shout out.
Oh, that's the
From
worst.
Jay-Z, that's
It
hilarious.
don't think that I didn't take just the word Ronson and like throw it all over my mixtape. So it sounded like he was talking about me.
Do you and Samantha ever get into it over DJing? Has there ever been a competition there between you and her?
No, she's probably better than I am now because she plays so much more regularly than I do. Like her chops are like honed. She's like an oiled machine. But no, we have different tastes in music, but no.
Did she always want to DJ, or did it come along later? And did you have to school her in the ways of this DJ craft?
I think she probably in the very beginning she just picked up stuff because she would come to my gigs, but no, she's got her own style. You know that West Coast kind of style, like that AM sort of started and Vice and all those guys. Like it's a different way to play than New York.
Who do you think is the greatest, if you had to pick one? And I know it's crazy.
Here we go.
White people and list.
Rosenberg ranking things.
Greatest DJ of all time. You're forced to pick number one. Who do you pick as number one?
Okay. I would have to say person I learned the most from, probably radio and going to see clubs, is probably Stretch Armstrong.
Wow, high praise.
But Flex and Clark Kent were also extremely kind of influential when I was, starting learning, listening to radio, learning routines, whatever it was.
Okay.
Flex and Clark. He picked 3, by the way.
I know.
Couldn't do one.
When forced to pick, whenever someone's like pick, I always say Jazzy Jeff is always like, if I'm forced to pick, I feel it's Jazzy Jeff.
Yeah, you went for the easy one. That's good.
You're right. It's sort of like saying, like, what's the greatest rap album of all time? You're like, Illmatic. I'm just Jazzy Jeff. It's like no one's going to argue with you. It's a very clean argument.
I could just say Stretch Master Kent, and then everyone has to just figure it out.
Then you know.
So now, working with Bruno Mars, what was that like? Bruno Mars is one of my favorite artists right now.
Bruno is great. He asked me to come in and work on his last record, and I co-produced Locked Out of Heaven and Gorilla. And then when I started to work on this new record...
Hold on. All right. Just brush it off, because let's talk about the checks that came from those. Co-writing officially.
Co-produced,
sorry, on paper.
Smaller checks.
But it's on paper. It's in the album.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Then this was appropriate.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
sure.
And when I started to work on my new record, I played him some demos. I co-produced the whole album with Jeff Basker, who did a lot of 808s and Heartbreaks and All of the Lights and Drake stuff. And Alicia Keys' Try Sleeping with a Broken Heart, which is one of my favorite songs of the past 10 years. And so when I started to play Bruno, the demos of what we were working on, we started to come up with this idea. He had this jam in his live show where they were kind of playing this live version of All Gold Everything by Trinidad James. So we took the spirit of that and kind of turned it into what became Uptown Funk.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Trinidad James getting checks.
There you go. He gets a check from that?
Definitely.
That's awesome.
Deservedly so.
Absolutely.
Do you have, is Bruno featured more than once in your project?
He actually ended up co-writing and does some vocals on the song with Mystical.
Okay.
Feel right? And then he's just got great ears, so he's kind of just given some good advice.
Well, hold on. Let's be clear also.
Stuff on the way.
You know who else has great ears?
Who?
Mark Ronson.
True.
Because you know who else has great ears? Peter Rosenberg. And, see, full circle. I knew.
Thought you were going to slide through and just big someone else up.
Without mentioning myself.
Yes, I did.
Well, it's yes and no, Ebro. I'm very excited. I thought I was the only... I got so charged when Mystical came back out and supposedly signed to Cash Money.
Yeah.
They put out one record that I thought was fucking fire. And I'm like, Mystical is back.
Which one? Which one are you talking
I
about?
forget what it's even called now, but it was the official Cash Money Mystical record from about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Got super excited. I interviewed him at South by. He was the only interview I wanted for all of South by Southwest that year. I was like, Mystical. And then nothing happened. And I'm so happy that you think he's amazing too, and went and snatched him up.
He did this record last year with KLC, Hit It, and we were obsessed with that record. So when we were basically, me and Jeff Basker went driving through the South looking for a young Shaka Khan when we were making this record. And when we were in New Orleans, we hooked up with Trombone Shorty, this amazing jazz player. Said,
know about Trombone Shorty,
iconic.
Boy.
Exactly. So he was like, we said we're looking for Mystical, and he's like, well, KLC, who produced all the legendary Beats by the Pound stuff, Master Limit, Move Bitch, he said, go to his studio in Baton Rouge. So we're like driving around like a bunch of idiots in the middle of the night trying to find Kelsey's place in Baton Rouge, and we show up at midnight, hang out, and then he gets Mystical to come around an hour later. And then 2 weeks later, when we went to Memphis to start recording the album, Kelsey and Mystical just came up for a few days, and we did that track.
That's awesome. Was Mystical interesting to watch work? Did you have
Awesome. He was so great, and it's just all one take, and the flow is nuts. The energy, like the way it goes up and down and like swerves all over the place, and it's just like one take. It's like he really is like that classic old school amazing performer.
I just feel like he has these hit songs to me that are like really underrated, iconically great hit songs. Not necessarily for how huge they become, though. Don't get it twisted. Shake Your Ass was a monster. I mean, that was a huge record. But like even Bouncing Back was such a good record.
Bouncing Back was great. And also like Mystical and Nori were the two kind of things that like ushered in the Neptunes sound, because they were like, you know, that was the first time you heard Pharrell do the falsetto, and you know, or the first time I did a lot, and you know, people kind of forget about that.
Well said. Do you ever get, what's the most excited Mark Ronson gets? Like, does your voice ever get louder than like a 3?
I don't think so. Probably your 3 is my 10.
like if the two hottest chicks on earth showed up at your house and they're like, good news, we brought sandwiches, a stack of records, and we want to blow you for the next 3 hours, would you be like, that sounds really sweet?
Did you bring any more Benadryl?